And now, for more on the developments in the TRC inquiry, we are now joined by Dr Zaid Kimmie. He's the director at the Foundation for Human Rights to unpack the latest developments after Cyril Ramaphosa, and that's the president, confirmed he will not oppose a court application for the removal of Justice Sisi Khampepe. And so thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. And let's start with the latest development. What are your thoughts surrounding what we do know now in those court papers, where it said that President Cyril Ramaphosa will not oppose for the removal of Sisi Khampepe?
I think, speak on behalf of the Foundation and the families, that we're very, very disappointed with this development. And I think while President Ramaphosa purported to abide by the court's decision, he, in fact, in his affidavit, demonstrated that he believes that Judge Khampepe is conflicted, and that through his backroom maneuvers, I think he's demonstrated that he has no confidence in her ability, and by doing so, he's damaged the commission. I think the position before the court was one which was going to be decided on the basis of law. Was Justice Khampepe conflicted or not? Was going to be decided by a full bench of the Gauteng High Court. And President Ramaphosa would have been well advised to leave it at that and to have that decision stand, rather than, I think, through his actions, deliberately damaging the Commission of Inquiry.
And Dr. Zaid, what does then this mean for the inquiry itself, particularly now that we have seen in court papers that the president did indeed ask for Justice Sisi Khampepe to step aside from this process and to allow the inquiry to get underway and for her to recuse herself. So when looking at these developments, what does this all mean, particularly for families who want justice?
I think the families are disappointed. It's worth pointing out that President Ramaphosa did not establish this commission of inquiry of his own bat, of his own accord, that he was forced to do so by the court action of the TRC families. And as part of settling that court action, he agreed to establish the commission. So this was an action that was forced on the president, and his subsequent actions with respect to this recusal application, I think, adequately demonstrate his lack of commitment to a process that uncovers truth and justice. The clip you've just played, for example, from the commission, shows that the evidence was mounting up, that a clear case was being set out, and it's at that point that he decides to intervene and make public his personal opinion of whether or not Justice Khampepe should continue. And again, I'd point out, this was a question, a legal question of a conflict of interest, which was going to be decided by a set of judges. We did not need, and he did not need to intervene in this manner.
And what do you make of the entirety of the case, particularly the case being brought forward by former President Jacob Zuma and former President Thabo Mbeki, saying that, she will be biased towards the proceedings because of her previous role in the TRC?
I think, we have argued that we do not believe that her previous roles exclude her from judging fairly and honestly and serving as the chair of this commission. We don't think that those prior roles give rise to an actual conflict of interest, but that the question was there to be decided and was due to be argued, and that the court had set aside the time and resources to settle this issue. And it's not a question of not opposing or opposing. We all will be bound by that court's decision. And it's our actions before that court that demonstrate whether or not we oppose or don't oppose. And President Ramaphosa, through his actions, has indicated that he opposes the ongoing work of this commission, that he wants this commission stopped and Judge Khampepe removed.
And Dr. Kimmie, before I let you go, do you think that this court case has also tainted the processes of this TRC inquiry?
Well, I'll leave that to the Commission to decide what the effect of this action is on its ongoing performance. But if it came to pass that the Commission had to be halted or suspended, I'd like to point out that there's an enormous waste of time and resources and emotional energy that is being that would have been wasted on this process. And I would hope that that doesn't come to pass. I think the Commission was starting to gain some traction. We were starting to adequately investigate the details of the alleged political interference. And it's disappointing that these developments take place at this particular time.
All right, Dr. Zaid Kimmie, thank you so much for your time and for your contribution. That is Dr. Zaid Kimmie. He's the director at the Foundation for Human Rights, just giving us the latest in terms of the developments surrounding the TRC inquiry.